Welcome to week 4 of instructional leadership. This probably will find you in the middle of your Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you all are finding time to spend with your families and take a little breather from all of your work endeavors. I want to begin with feedback on your papers. Most of you did a really nice job of showing the pros and cons for both types of leadership and supported your comments. Many of you seemed to find leadership styles dependent upon the age of your students, and most of you were able to find a balance between these two leadership styles as they applied to your own teaching assignments. So I thought that they were well written. I didn't have a lot of comments about content because the content for the most part was really well written in your papers. Most of my feedback was about APA, and I feel like part of my job is to provide you with formative feedback, and I really work hard at being the kind of transformational leader that is going to challenge you to rethink your instructional practice, to rethink how you are teaching and what you're using and how you might take that to another level. In doing so, sometimes I put that in my comments to challenge you a little bit. The comments for the last paper, as I said, were mostly about APA, and if your paper was loaded directly onto Blackboard, I used the comments option on there so I could be very specific about what you needed to change or be aware of. So be sure and pull your paper up and look and see if I did put comments directly on your paper. I also put comments in the comment box by your grade. Most of the time, if you're missing something in APA, I'll take off a couple of points. If you missed something, nobody did this, but if in the future with me, if you miss a big chunk of an assignment that's going to cost you points that will affect your grade, I will usually give you an opportunity to redo or refine or submit that assignment for some extra points. So that will usually be in my comment section if that should become the case. And I should have said that in the first week, but I didn't, so I want you to know that that is my grading policy. Discussion board entries this week were really good. The only thing that I need to remind you of is that you do need to make a citation within the body of your postings. Okay, so for week 4, there are 2 objectives that I'm wanting to call forward for this week. One is to conduct research on a topic of educational leadership that applies to the need for school improvement in your current working setting. And another is to collect, analyze, and present accurate, objective, and persuasive data that may serve as a catalyst for teachers to change their own leadership behaviors. So I think that the opportunity to interview this week will really help reach those objectives, as well as the readings that you have. So speaking of readings, you're going to be finishing the last 3 chapters of your textbook. I do want you to know that it is not my choice as to the pacing of the reading. I know it's been really heavy at the beginning of the course, and then we finished the whole textbook here in week 4. I have to follow the Blackboard format for that, so please know that I don't set those schedules for the reading. This week you're going to be looking at chapters 10 and 11 under the umbrella of encouraging the heart. And encouraging the heart means that you recognize contributions by showing appreciation for individual excellence. And chapter 11 talks about celebrating the values and victories. And you can do that by creating a spirit of community. So one of the personal examples I might give you about that would be a principal that regularly placed handwritten notes of appreciation or thanking us for different things that we'd done at our school site. And that made a real impression on me to try and emulate those behaviors so that I was an encouragement to others, because in doing that she certainly did encourage all of our hearts at her side and made her a much beloved principal. Chapter 12 is kind of a wrap-up of the textbook. It's Leadership is Everyone's Business. And so that will conclude your textbook readings. You also have one article to read this week called the Setup to Fail Syndrome. This includes 2 studies about the causal relationship between leadership style and subordinate performance. There's a nice little 8-box cartoon that kind of defines for you what the problem is, and then the article goes on to talk about how to remediate that or to avoid it. Then you have one video this week. It's a 17-minute TED Talk by John Wooden, filmed in 2001, and it will encourage your heart to watch it. It's a sweet interview. It's not even an interview. It's him just kind of sharing his thoughts about what was important to him in reaching his students and his players. So I think you'll enjoy that. This week, as always, you have 2 choices on discussion board. The first choice question asks, how are contributions recognized in your educational setting? I shared how they were in one of mine. Or what improvements need to be made to improve upon recognizing contributions? And I think that those questions, after you read the chapter in the book and watch the video in the article, could be about how could you, as a leader in your school, begin to make those changes, or what are you doing now and encouraging others to do that recognizes contributions. Your other option is to write 1 or 2 paragraphs briefly discussing the leaders that you chose for your interview this week. And why did you choose those 2 leaders? Share some of your interviewing moments, techniques, or insight for conducting those interviews. So that plays right into the assignment 3. I talked briefly about this last week. You can find the directions for this assignment either in week 3 under Looking Ahead, or this week under week 4 where it says Submitting Assignment 3. You click on that, and then when that opens up, there's a place that says click here to access directions. And then there's also a link to the rubric. And I want to talk a minute about the rubric because this is how I grade you. And you are being asked to set up that interview with 2 leaders, one in education and one in business, who you think are effective. And there are 5 points of criteria in addition to your writing style, your APA, and your references. So in the body of your paper, you're going to address leaders' definition of philosophy and leadership, leaders' characteristics and strategies that help them lead effectively. You're going to talk about similarities and differences between the educational leader and the business leader. You're going to talk about how each leader maintains their integrity, their motivation, and their good health. So make sure that you include that in your questioning. And then you're going to finish with your personal vision of leadership in schools today. So how have these leaders that you've interviewed and the things that you've read so far in the term helped you to build a vision of leadership? Each of those 5 areas could be delineated with a level 1 heading. A level 1 heading is the one that is bolded and centered, and those could be your headings. I would encourage you to use these in this way for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it easier for me to grade your paper. I can read each section and decide if you have met that criteria and at what level you've met that criteria. It also helps you to see that you have indeed completed all of the components of the assignment. If you wanted to use a level 2 heading within this paper, I'm going to give you an example of what that might look like. Some of you used level 1 headings, but then you kind of randomly stuck in a level 2 heading, so it was not consistent. Think about headings like you would at the old-fashioned outlining with Roman numerals and then capital letters, and then I think numbers and then small letters. It's been a long time since we've done that kind of outlining. So level 1, if you just use these 5 headings, they would all be level 1. They would all be consistently formatted. If you chose to do a level 2 heading, it might be, for instance, in the first area of criteria where it says leaders, definition of philosophy and leadership, that might be a level 1 heading, and then you would put in a level 2 heading, the business person's philosophy of leadership. Talk about that. Then put in a second level 2 heading, the educational leader's philosophy of leadership. And then when you went to the next criteria, you would have a level 1 again. If you've used a level 2 in one place, there is no requirement that you use a level 2 again. So you can use these however you wish. We very seldom see anything go beyond a level 3, even in the capstone project. So I would highly suggest that you utilize at least the level 1 headings so that you and I are both sure that you have addressed all of these components of the paper. You also need to have at least 4 resources for this paper, references. You can go find some other ones if you want, but you have a lot of references. All these chapters, all the articles, all the videos that you've been engaged with over the last 3 weeks, these can be used in your paper. Again, your writing style, which I didn't see a lot of problems with that in your last paper, and your mechanics, so please use spell check, please use grammar check. You can use the resources that the university offers for papers, and then be consistent with your APA format. Last week I spoke about in your running head, making sure that the words running head came prior to the title of your paper, and there were a number of you that didn't do that. So please make sure that your running head is formatted correctly, your pagination is correct. Reference pages are a separate page. They don't follow the last page. They're not on the same page as the last page of your document. They are a separate page. So all of that being said, I'm going to close again by saying that I hope you're keeping up with the assignment for week 6. This is assignment 4, and it's the reflective journal. Hopefully, as you've kept up with this during the weeks, this will kind of be a done deal and ready to turn in on week 6. So I hope that you're all enjoying your Memorial Day weekends, and I, as always, am available by phone or text or email, so let me know if you have any questions or concerns about what's happening this week, and I will talk to you next week.